Hello there, and welcome back to the Sleepy Universe channel. Tonight we are coming back down to Earth, but we are going to a place that feels just as alien as any moon. We are going to the very bottom of the globe, to a land where the sun spirals in the sky instead of rising and setting, to a land buried under miles of crystal. We are going to Antarctica. So, pull the covers up. Imagine the air in your room is cool and fresh. Let your breathing slow down. We are about to embark on a long ship journey across the Southern Ocean, leaving civilization behind to find the ultimate peace of the ice. The crossing. To get there, we must cross the wildest ocean on Earth. The roaring 40s and the furious 50s. But tonight, for us, the sea is calm. We are on a sturdy icebreaker, cutting smoothly through the dark gray waves. The further south we go, the colder the wind becomes. It bites at your cheeks, but it feels clean. It is the cleanest air on the planet, untouched by industry, circling the pole in an endless loop. The first ice. Then you see it on the horizon. A white shape glowing in the mist. The first iceberg. It is not just a chunk of ice. It is a cathedral floating in the water. It is turquoise at the waterline, deep blue in the cracks, and blinding white on top. It drifts silently past our ship, a lonely sentinel guarding the gates of the south. Soon, there are more. A sculpture garden of ice, carved by the wind and the waves into arches, towers, and caves. The barrier. After days of sailing, the dark ocean ends. Ahead of us lies a wall. This is the ice shelf. It is a sheer cliff of ice, rising 50 meters out of the water and stretching to the left and right as far as the eye can see. It is perfectly flat on top. This is the edge of the continent. It is not a shore of sand. It is a shore of frozen water. The scale of it is overwhelming. It looks like the edge of the world. The landing. We find a break in the ice. We step off the ship. The first thing you notice is the sound, or rather, the lack of it. There is no hum of traffic. No rustling of trees. There are no trees. No buzzing of insects. There are no insects. There is only the wind, whistling softly over the snow. It is a heavy, profound silence. It feels like the world is holding its breath, the texture of white. You look around. It is white everywhere. But it is not a flat white. It is textured. The snow has been sculptured by the katabatic winds, winds that fall from the high plateau. They have carved the snow into sastrugi, hard wave-like ridges that look like a frozen ocean. The ground sparkles. Millions of ice crystals catch the low sun, glittering like diamond dust scattered across the floor. The dry cold. It is cold, yes, but it is a dry cold. It doesn't soak into your bones like a damp winter day. It sits on your skin like a firm pressure. It preserves everything. If you left a piece of wood here, it wouldn't rot. It would stay perfectly preserved for centuries. Antarctica is a place where entropy slows down. Decay stops. History is frozen in place. The color of blue. Where the ice cracks, you see the true color of the continent. It isn't white, it is blue. Electric, neon blue. This is because the ice is old. It has been squeezed for thousands of years, pressing out all the air bubbles. Without air bubbles to scatter the light, the ice absorbs the red rays of the sun and reflects only the blue. We are walking on a landscape made of compressed blue time. The Great Isolation. You realize that you are standing on a piece of land larger than Europe, and yet there are no indigenous people here, no ancient ruins, no wars were ever fought here. It is the only continent that belongs to no one and everyone. It is dedicated to peace and science. It is a sanctuary. The sheer emptiness of it makes your mind feel spacious. There is no clutter here, just the sky and the ice. The Sentinel. In the distance, a Weddell seal is sleeping on the ice. It doesn't look up as we pass. It has no predators on the land. It knows no fear. It simply sighs, a puff of steam rising from its nostrils, and goes back to sleep. It is perfectly content in this frozen freezer. Moving inland, we stand at the edge, looking inward. The coast is just the beginning. Ahead of us lies the vast interior, the high plateau, the mountains buried in snow. We are going to travel inland, away from the sea, toward the strangest valleys on earth. We leave the sparkling white coast behind. We travel inland, flying over miles of glaciers and snowfields. But then, something strange happens. The white abruptly stops. We look down, and the snow disappears. We have arrived at an anomaly, a place that shouldn't exist on the frozen continent. We have reached the McMurdo Dry Valleys, the naked earth. It looks like we have teleported to another planet, perhaps Mars. The ground here is not covered in ice. It is bare, exposed rock, brown gravel, black sand, and gray. Boulders stretch out in every direction. It is a stark, dusty desert in the middle of the freezer. It is the driest place on Earth. It hasn't rained here for 2 million years. The wind wall. How is this possible? The secret lies in the mountains that surround the valleys. They block the flow of the ice sheet, and down from these mountains rush the katabatic winds. heavy, cold air falling from the high plateau. These winds can reach hurricane speeds. They are so dry that when they hit the valley floor, they act like a hairdryer. They evaporate any snow that tries to fall before it can touch the ground. They scour the earth clean. The silence of rock. We land on the valley floor. It is even quieter here than on the ice. Snow absorbs sound, but rock reflects it. The only noise is the wind whistling through the strangely eroded stones. The rocks have been carved by the wind for eons. They look like abstract sculptures, honeycombed with holes, polished to a shine by millions of years of blowing grit. The mummies. As we walk across the gravel, we find something unsettling but peaceful. A seal, lying on the rocks, miles from the ocean. It is perfectly preserved. Because the air is so dry and cold, bacteria cannot survive here. Things do not rot. They simply dry out. This seal might have wandered here and died 100 years ago, or 1,000. It looks like a statue, a guardian of the valley, frozen in time forever. It is a place where death is not decay, but preservation. The salty ponds. In the bottom of the valleys, there are small pools of water. Don Juan Pond, Lake Vanda. You might think they are frozen solid, but they are liquid. They are so salty, 10 times saltier than the ocean, that they cannot freeze, even at 50 degrees. They sit there, heavy and still, like pools of syrup. They are chemical mirrors, reflecting the dark cliffs above. Blood falls. At the end of the valley, we see a glacier spilling over the mountains. The Taylor Glacier. But from its snout, something shocking is pouring out. A bright, rusty red liquid flows down the white ice. It looks like the glacier is bleeding. This is Blood Falls. It is ancient seawater trapped under the glacier millions of years ago. It is rich in iron. When it finally reaches the air, the iron rusts instantly, turning the water blood red. It is a splash of violent color in a world of gray and white. The invisible life. For a long time, scientists thought this place was dead, sterile, but they were wrong. Inside the rocks, literally inside the sandstone, there are colonies of bacteria. Endoliths. They hide inside the stone to protect themselves from the wind and cold, living off tiny amounts of moisture and sunlight that filter through the rock grains. Life here has learned to hide. It has learned to wait. The Martian analog. NASA comes here to practice. Because if you want to know what it's like to stand on Mars, you come to the dry valleys. The soil is the same. The temperature is the same. The dryness is the same. As we stand here, kicking the red dust, we are standing on the closest thing to an alien world that Earth has to offer. The pause. Let's sit on a boulder for a moment. Look at the valley walls. Layers of sediment, stripes of black and tan. They tell a history of a time before the ice. A time when this continent was green. But that was long ago. Now, there is only the wind, the salt, and the dry, cold stone. It is a landscape stripped to its bones. Transition. We leave the dry desert. We are going back to the ice. But we are not going to walk on top of it. We are going to look deep beneath it. We are going to find a lost world hidden under 4 kilometers of solid ice. A lake that has been sealed off from the sun for 15 million years. We leave the rocky ground of the dry valleys. We board a plane equipped with skis and fly deep into the interior of the continent. We are heading to the pole of cold, the center of the East Antarctic ice sheet. We land at Vostok Station. Here, the temperature can drop to minus 89 degrees Celsius. It is the coldest place on Earth. It is a flat, blindingly white plain that stretches to the horizon in every direction. But we are not here for the view above. We are here for what lies below, standing on the lid. Imagine you are standing on the snow at Vostok. Beneath your boots is ice. Not just a layer, but a mountain of it. 4 kilometers of solid ice, pressing down with crushing weight. It took millions of years for this snow to accumulate. But if you could look down through the crystal clear darkness, past the layers of history, you would see something impossible. At the bottom of the world, under the heaviest ice sheet on the planet, there is liquid water. The lost ocean. This is Lake Vostok. It is not a puddle. It is a giant. It is huge, about the same size as Lake Ontario. It is 250 kilometers long and 50 kilometers wide. It is a massive freshwater sea, completely sealed off from the rest of the world. It has been buried here in total darkness for at least 15 million years. It is the most isolated body of water on Earth. The pressure cooker. How can water remain liquid at the coldest place on the planet? It is a battle of physics. The ice above acts like a giant blanket, trapping the heat coming from the Earth's core. And the pressure is so immense, over 350 atmospheres, that it lowers the freezing point of the water. So, in the pitch black, under the crushing weight, the lake flows. It has tides. It has currents. It is a dynamic, living system hidden in a stone box. The time capsule. The water in Lake Vostok is old. It is a time capsule from the Miocene epoch. The last time this water saw sunlight, Antarctica was warmer. There might have been forests nearby. Now it is a chemical archive. The ice above slowly melts into the lake, releasing ancient air bubbles. This makes the lake incredibly rich in oxygen, perhaps 50 times more oxygenated than a normal lake. It is a hyper-oxygenated, high-pressure dark room. The drill. For decades, scientists drilled down. Day after day, the drill bit chewed through the ice, bringing up cores that revealed the climate history of the past 400,000 years. Deeper and deeper, but as they got close to the water, they stopped. They were afraid. They didn't want to touch the pristine water with a dirty drill. They stopped just 100 meters above the surface, leaving a thin ceiling of ice to protect the lake. The contact. Years later, they finally broke through, but carefully. They let the pressure of the lake push the water up into the borehole, where it froze. Then they pulled up that frozen plug. They finally held the water of Vostok in their hands. It was clear, it was pure, and it held secrets. Life in the dark. In that frozen sample, they found DNA, bacteria, fungi. Life exists down there. In the absolute dark, under extreme pressure, in cold water rich in oxygen, life had found a way. These creatures have not seen the sun for millions of years. They are extremophiles, living off the minerals in the rock and the heat of the earth. They are lonely survivors, evolving on a separate path from the rest of the planet. The alien analog. This excites astronomers more than anyone else, because if life can survive in Lake Vostok, it can survive on Europa, a moon of Jupiter, or Enceladus, a moon of Saturn. Those worlds are just like this, an icy shell covering a liquid ocean. Vostok is a practice run for finding life in the solar system. The silence of the deep. Close your eyes and imagine drifting in that lake. It is pitch black. The water is 3 degrees Celsius. Above you is a ceiling of ice that shines like a mirror. Below you is a floor of rock. There is no sound, no waves crashing, just the slow, silent circulation of ancient water, waiting for the ice to melt, waiting for the sun to return in 1 billion years. Transition. We float back up through the 4 kilometers of ice. We break the surface. We are back on the high plateau. The sun has set. The long polar night has begun. But the darkness is not empty. We look up, and the sky is on fire. We have explored the coast, the dry valleys, and the deep buried lakes. Now, time moves forward. The sun, which has circled the horizon for months, finally dips below the edge of the world. It does not rise again. The long Antarctic winter begins. The continent is plunged into darkness. It is a darkness deeper than any night you have experienced. There are no city lights for thousands of miles. Just the velvet black of the universe and the white glow of the snow. We lie back on the ice, looking up, waiting for the sky to wake up. The invisible shield. High above us, invisible forces are at work. The earth has a magnetic field, a giant bubble of protection that surrounds the planet. At the poles, the north and the south, this bubble curves inward, funneling down like a giant drain, and from the sun, a stream of charged particles is rushing toward us. The solar wind. When this wind hits the atmosphere, it doesn't just stop, it glows. The first spark. It begins as a faint pale ribbon in the dark, a ghost of light. It looks like a cloud, but it is moving too fast to be a cloud. It is a greenish-white band stretching from east to west. Then it brightens. The ribbon twists. It folds over on itself. The sky is no longer empty. It is breathing light. The Aurora Australis. This is the Aurora Australis, the southern lights. They are the mirror image of the northern lights, dancing alone over the uninhabited continent. Suddenly, the sky explodes with color. The primary color is a brilliant neon green. It is the color of oxygen atoms being excited by the solar wind high in the atmosphere. It paints the snow below in a strange alien hue. The curtains. The light forms into massive vertical curtains. They hang from the stars, hundreds of kilometers high, draping down toward the earth. They ripple as if a cosmic breeze is blowing through them. They shimmer, fold, and unfurl. It is a silent island symphony, a visual music. The curtains move with a liquid grace, sweeping across the zenith, faster than any airplane. The rare reds. Sometimes, if the solar wind is strong, the colors change. The bottom of the curtain turns a deep blood red or a vibrant violet. This is nitrogen glowing lower in the atmosphere. The sky becomes a canvas of purple and green, mixing and swirling. It looks like a portal opening to another dimension. It is terrifyingly beautiful. The sound of light. There are legends that you can hear the aurora. Travelers speak of a faint crackling, like radio static or rustling silk, synchronized with the lights. Science says the air is too thin to carry sound from that height, but the brain plays tricks in the absolute silence. You watch the sky crash and burn with color, and your mind fills in the sound of a roaring fire. Even though the air is dead silent, the reflection. If you look down, the show is doubled. The smooth, flat ice sheet acts as a mirror. The green fire in the sky is reflected on the ground. You are floating between two skies. You are suspended in a sphere of light. The shadows of the ice ridges dance and shift as the light moves above. The world feels fluid, untethered from reality. The connection. Lying here, wrapped in thick furs, watching the display, you realize what you are seeing. You are seeing the connection between the sun and the earth. You are seeing the magnetic shield that protects all life. If this field weren't here, the solar wind would strip away our atmosphere. This beauty is the visible sign of our safety. It is the shield glowing as it deflects the blow. The fade. Slowly, the storm of light subsides. The curtains fade back into pale ribbons. The ribbons dissolve into mist. The green glow lingers for a moment, and then the true darkness returns. The stars pop back into existence, sharp and hard diamonds in the cold vacuum. The Milky Way arches over the pole, a river of dust and stars. The cold deepens. The show is over. The temperature drops further. The ice groans, contracting in the cold. We have seen the sky dance. Now we must turn our attention back to the ground, because the ground itself is moving. The ice is not just a solid block. It is a river. In the next chapter, we will march with the glaciers. The lights in the sky have faded. We are back in the dark, standing on the high plateau. To us, the ground feels solid. It feels like concrete. But that is an illusion. If you stood here for 1,000 years, you would notice something terrifying. You are moving. The entire continent is sliding. The ice is not a rock. It is a fluid. It is a slow, heavy river flowing from the center of the continent out toward the sea. The weight. Imagine the pressure. In the center of Antarctica, the ice is 4 kilometers thick. The weight of it is so immense that it has actually pushed the Earth's crust down. If you melted the ice, the land would rebound, rising up hundreds of meters. But for now, the continent is crushed under the load. This pressure squeezes the ice at the bottom until it becomes plastic. It becomes slippery. And so, the march begins. The slow flow. It starts in the interior. The ice moves imperceptibly, maybe a few centimeters a year. It flows over mountains and valleys hidden deep below, draping over them like a thick white blanket. It is a silent, creeping force. It is the definition of patience. It does not rush. It simply advances, relentless and unstoppable. The glaciers. As the ice gets closer to the coast, it speeds up. It funnels into channels. These are the glaciers, giant rivers of ice, tens of kilometers wide, pouring through the mountain gaps. The Beardmore Glacier, the Lambert Glacier. These are the highways of the frozen world. Here, The ice cracks and groans. It is under tension. The crevasses. The surface of a glacier is a dangerous place. The tension pulls the ice apart, creating crevasses. Deep blue scars that can be hundreds of meters deep. Some are hidden by thin bridges of snow, waiting for a careless step. If you look down into one, the walls fade from white to a terrifying, bottomless blue. It is the throat of the glacier, swallowing the snow and carrying it down to the darkness. The sound of stress. Glaciers are noisy. If you put your ear to the ice, you hear it. Pop, crack, groan. It sounds like a dying ship. It sounds like thunder trapped underground. It is the sound of billions of tons of crystal grinding against bedrock. The ice is fighting the friction, snapping and reforming as it slides downhill. It is the music of geology in motion. The ice streams. Some parts of the ice move strangely fast. These are ice streams. They are rivers within the ice sheet, sliding on a bed of mud and water. They can move a meter a day. It doesn't sound like much, but for a glacier, that is a sprint. They are the arteries draining the heart of the continent, rushing to dump their load into the ocean. The arrival at the sea. Finally, after a journey of 10,000 years, the snowflake that fell in the center reaches the edge. It meets the ocean. The glacier pushes out over the water, floating. It becomes an ice shelf. It is no longer supported by rock. It is supported by the sea. The rise and fall of the tides flex the ice, bending it, weakening it. The calving. And then the end comes. With a sound like a cannon shot, a crack races across the front of the shelf. A massive block breaks free. An iceberg is born. It is the size of a city. It tilts, rolls, and crashes into the sea, sending up a tsunami of spray. The glacier has delivered its cargo. The ice, which was once land-bound, is now a ship of the sea, drifting north to melt and mix with the global ocean. The cycle. It seems destructive, but it is just a cycle. The water evaporates from the ocean, falls as snow on the plateau, gets buried, flows back to the coast, and breaks off as an iceberg. It is a slow, cold heartbeat, a circulation of water that takes millennia to complete one loop. The stillness. We stand on the cliff edge, watching the new iceberg drift away into the mist. The violence of the calving is over. The silence returns. The glacier behind us continues its slow push, preparing the next block for the next century. Time here is measured not in hours, but in inches of ice. Transition. We have seen the ice move, but what about the things that do move quickly? What about the life that clings to the edge of this frozen world? We are going to visit the coast again. We are going to meet the emperors of the ice. Here is Chapter 6, The Emperors. Script: Antarctica, the White Silence. Chapter 6, The Emperors, Transition. We descend from the shifting glaciers back down to the frozen sea. The winter is at its deepest point. The sun has been gone for weeks. The temperature is hovering around -60 degrees. The wind is howling, whipping the snow into a white frenzy. Every other animal has fled. The seals have swum north to warmer waters. The birds have flown away. The continent is abandoned, except for one. On the flat sea ice, standing tall against the blizzard, is a colony of survivors. The emperor penguins. The impossible choice. It seems like a mistake of evolution. Why would an animal choose to raise its young in the coldest place on Earth, during the coldest months of the year, in total darkness? But nature has a plan. By nesting now, their chicks will be ready to swim when the summer ice melts. To achieve this, they must endure the unendurable. They are the only warm-blooded animals on the continent right now. They are the guardians of the flame. The huddle. We watch them from a distance. Thousands of birds standing shoulder to shoulder. They form a massive solid circle, a tortoiseshell made of feathers. This is the huddle. It is a masterpiece of cooperation. Inside the center of the huddle, it is tropical. The body heat of thousands of birds raises the temperature to a cozy 30 degrees Celsius. Outside it is -60. The difference is life and death. The slow rotation. The huddle is not static. It is moving. It is a slow, churning fluid. The birds on the outside, facing the biting wind, slowly shuffle down the flank of the group. They push their way into the warmth of the middle. Meanwhile, the birds in the center, who have warmed up, slowly shuffle outward to take their turn on the frozen perimeter. No one is left behind. It is a democracy of warmth. A constant, silent rotation of shivering and heating. The precious cargo. Look closely at their feet. Balanced on top of their toes, covered by a warm flap of belly skin, is a single egg. This is the entire future of the colony. The egg cannot touch the ice. If it touches the ice for even a few seconds, the embryo inside will freeze and die. They, fathers, stand there, balancing this fragile hope on their feet for 2 months. They do not eat. They do not move much. They just stand, wait, and protect. The song in the dark. In this darkness, They cannot see each other well, so they sing. The colony is filled with a trumpeting sound. Each penguin has a unique voice, a specific frequency that cuts through the wind. Partners find each other by sound alone. It is a noisy, bustling city in the middle of a frozen wasteland. The sound of life refusing to be silenced by the cold. The long fast. The females have left. They have walked dozens of miles across the ice to the open ocean to feed. They are gone for months. The males are left alone with the eggs. They are starving. They lose half their body weight. They are burning their own fat to keep their bodies and the eggs warm. It is a feat of endurance that is unmatched in the animal kingdom. It is a meditation on patience, the return of the sun. Eventually, a faint twilight appears on the horizon. The sun is coming back, and with the sun, the females return. They bring bellies full of fish. The reunion is joyous. The chick hatches into the world just as the light returns. The father, exhausted and thin, finally passes the chick to the mother and begins his own long walk to the sea. The cycle continues. The quiet dignity. There is a profound dignity in these birds. They do not fight the cold. They endure it together. They stand upright, dressed in their formal black and white feathers, facing the storm with their chests out. They teach us that survival is not about being the strongest individual. It is about standing close to others when the winter comes. The human footprint. We leave the colony to their business. We walk away across the ice shelf. The wind covers our tracks. We are visitors here, and we leave no mark. But we are not the first humans to walk this ice. In the next chapter, we will visit the ghosts of the past. We will step inside a wooden hut that has been frozen in time for a century. We walk away from the noise of the penguin colony. We trudge across the sea ice, heading toward a rocky cape that juts out into the frozen ocean. It is a lonely place. Black volcanic rock meets white snow. But nestled in the lee of a hill, there is something that doesn't belong. A small, square shape. A building. It is made of wood. It looks tiny against the backdrop of Mount Erebus. This is not a modern research station. This is a ghost house. This is Shackleton's hut, the time machine. We approach the door. It is weathered, bleached gray by a century of blizzards, but it is still standing. We brush the snow off the latch. We pull it open. It creaks, a loud, dry sound in the silence. We step inside and close the door behind us. Instantly, the wind stops. The howling gale is replaced by a heavy, thick stillness. We have just stepped out of 2026 and into 1908. the smell of history. The first thing that hits you is not the pchogaya sight, but the smell. It is a rich, overpowering scent that has been trapped here for over 100 years. It smells of pine wood. It smells of seal blubber and lamp oil. It smells of old tobacco smoke, damp wool, and reindeer fur. It is the smell of the Edwardian era, frozen in a bottle. It is comforting, yet haunting. The perfectly preserved table. Your eyes adjust to the gloom. Light filters through the small, dusty windows. You look at the table. It is set for dinner. There are tins of food sitting there. Heinz baked beans, Lyle's golden syrup, tins of cocoa. The labels are bright and colorful, as if they were bought yesterday. The metal hasn't rusted. The paper hasn't rotted. The dry, freezing air has paused the chemistry of decay. It looks as if the men just stood up and walked out a moment ago. The sleeping bags. In the corner, you see the bunks. Rolled up on the wooden slats are sleeping bags made of reindeer skin. They look heavy and warm. You can see the impress of a body in one of them. A pair of thick woolen socks hangs on a laundry line strung across the room. They are stiff with cold, but they are whole. A book lies open on a crate, waiting for a reader who will never return. The ghosts of the heroic age. You can feel them here. Shackleton, Scott, the giants of the heroic age of Antarctic exploration. These were men who came here with wooden ships and canvas tents, wearing wool and leather, dragging sledges by hand into the unknown. They sat at this table, planning their routes, laughing, smoking pipes, listening to the wind try to tear their shelter apart. The silence of the hut is heavy with their presence. The laboratory. Over on a shelf, there are glass bottles, chemicals, medicine, photography equipment. A dark room stands in the corner. You can see glass plates with images of the ice captured a century ago. It reminds us that they weren't just adventurers. They were scientists. They came to measure the wind, to weigh the stars, to understand the magnet. They did it with brass instruments and ink pens, shivering in the candlelight. The stables. Attached to the side of the hut are the stables. Yes, they brought ponies to Antarctica. You can still find the hay here. It smells sweet and grassy, a smell of the English countryside transported to the bottom of the world. It is a heartbreaking reminder of the animals that struggled here alongside the men. The fragility. Standing in the center of the room, you realize how fragile this shelter is. The walls are thin planking filled with insulation. Outside, the temperature can drop to -70. The wind can blow at 100 miles an hour. And yet, this little wooden box has survived. It has stood defiant against the weather for more than a century. It is a testament to the stubbornness of the human spirit. The door. It feels wrong to stay too long. We are intruders in a tomb of memories. We turn back to the door. We take one last look at the tins of syrup, the reindeer skins. We step back out into the blinding white light. We latch the door. The wind hits us again. The smell of pine and tobacco vanishes, replaced by the sterile, clean scent of the ice. The view north. We stand on the porch of the hut, looking north across the frozen sea. We have seen the land. We have seen the ice. We have seen the history. Now it is time to leave. We are going to ascend. We are going to drift up, away from the continent, to see the whole picture, to see the white cap of the world shrinking in the distance. Here is the final chapter. We have walked the driest valleys, touched the oldest ice, and stood inside the frozen memories of explorers. Now, it is time to leave the ground. It is time to see the white continent for what it truly is, the silent guardian of our planet. Here is Chapter 8, The White Sleep. Script: Antarctica, The White Silence. Chapter 8, The White Sleep. Transition. We lift off from the snow. The wooden hut becomes a tiny speck, then disappears entirely. We rise higher, passing the peak of Mount Erebus with its gentle plume of steam. We climb through the thin, cold air until we reach the silence of orbit. We look down. From here, the details vanish. The crevasses, the rocks, the penguins, they all blend together. What remains is a single, blindingly perfect shape, the white cap of the world, the Great Dome. You are looking at the largest single mass of ice in the universe. It is a shield of white covering the bottom of the globe. It looks peaceful. It looks smooth. It curves gently over the horizon, hiding the mountains beneath it. It is a blanket of crystal laid over the earth, tucking the continent in for a sleep that has lasted 30 million years. The planet's thermostat. As you float here, you realize this isn't just a frozen wasteland. It is a machine. This white surface reflects the sun's heat back into space. It is the air conditioner of the earth. It keeps the oceans cool. It drives currents that circulate water around the globe. Without this silent, frozen heart, our world would be a sweltering jungle. The ice is protecting us. It is doing the heavy lifting of climate control, silently, while we go about our busy lives in the north. The archive of breath. Think about the air bubbles trapped in that ice. Every time it snowed, a tiny pocket of air was captured. the air from the time of the Romans, the air from the time of the pyramids, the air from the time of the Neanderthals. It is all down there, stacked in neat layers, waiting. The continent is a library. It remembers every breath the planet has ever taken. It is the ultimate memory of the Earth. The slowest clock. Time moves differently here. In the cities of the North, time is measured in seconds and minutes. Traffic lights, notifications, schedules. Here, time is measured in geological epochs. A glacier moves an inch. A mountain erodes a millimeter. The ice sheet thickens by a snowflake. It is the slowest clock in the world. Watching it makes your own racing mind slow down to match its rhythm. The long night. As we watch, the shadow of the Earth creeps across the ice. The long polar night is settling in. The white dome turns gray, then a deep, luminous blue. The stars emerge, sharp and unblinking in the dry air. The Southern Cross hangs directly overhead. The continent is going to sleep. It will lie in the dark for months, visited only by the wind and the aurora. The peace of isolation. There is a comfort in knowing that such a place exists. A place where there is no noise, no politics, no commerce, just wind, ice, and rock. A place that belongs to the silence. Even if you never go there, just knowing it is there, at the bottom of the world, frozen and still, brings a sense of calm. It is the Earth's quiet room, returning to warmth. Now, let your mind drift away from the pole. Fly north, across the Southern Ocean, across the continents, back to where you are. Feel the contrast. Your room is warm. Your blankets are heavy. You are not standing on the plateau. You are safe in your bed. Let the cold of the story make you feel even warmer in your sanctuary. The final stillness. The ice is heavy. The wind has stopped. The stars are watching. The world is turning slowly on its axis, pivoted on the very spot we just visited. Everything is stable. Everything is held in place by the ice. The white sleep. Let the image of the white horizon fade into the dark behind your eyelids. The snow is falling silently in the dark, covering the tracks, smoothing the world. It is time to rest. The continent sleeps, and so do you. Good night, sleep well. The ice will be there in the morning. Good night.